Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Run for Your Stars, where stories come to life. This week, I scored a clip of Minecraft Bedwars. Let's get right into how it was made. So before I did anything else, I kind of went through the video, which I have on this track here, and I just went ahead and marked out a bunch of different moments where I thought the music should do something. So right here, we have me bridging across, and then a cut to when Red's bridging over, so I would kind of want the music to pick up there, for example. I'll explain the rest of these as I go through the rest of the track, but for now, I just want to go through section by section and explain what I made, basically. So for the introduction here, I kind of wanted a little bit of a Hans Zimmer-esque cinematic feel to it. So of course, I just had to start out with this soft piano, single notes like the artsy fart that I am. And at first, they were only like that one beginning note. Freaking C sharp, not a D, because unlike Hans Zimmer, I don't write exclusively in D, but
I like writing in D.
I went ahead, made it move around a little bit to make it a little more interesting. I just kind of started adding layers on top of that, right? So then I added like some of these strings, right? To give it a little more rhythm as I'm bridging along, right? Get some momentum going. And then this guy starts bridging over to me, so I'm like, oh, we need some violins to go with that. Some strings to build in intensity too. And he also hits me there, and so I'm like, oh, let's add like a little trill when he hits me. So then when I filled out the rest of the beginning section, I added some synths as well to kind of give it that hybrid orchestral sound, you know? With all of that together, it sounds like this. I think you get the idea. It just kind of continues like that for the rest of that section. For this next section, when I was playing this game with my friend, we started to realize that yellow team was a lot better than we were. So we have this yellow dude just absolutely trashing on us with his bridging skills. So musically, I'm like, oh, okay, we're not going to win. These guys are way better, right? So I went with the most basic freaking sad boy chords that I could possibly dream up. Maybe it's a little too much, I don't know. So you start out here with like a spaced out E minor. I didn't do the minor third in there because that maybe would have been too much. This E flat minor. You go to the A flat minor. It's like the F sharp major. It's like, it's so basic and so sad. Then you have this diminished. Since this section's kind of building a little bit, I go to the major. And since I wanted to build, I got this F diminished into an A flat major. So get that diminished up to the major kind of resolution going. So once I got my sad boy chords out of the way, now I'm like, okay, time to add some strings. Nice and quiet, you know, they're kind of like tiptoeing around, I don't know, something like that. This viola section is something I want to talk about. So when the yellow starts beating me up, I introduce this rhythm. And that's actually 5 notes split across each beat, so it doesn't fall under the grid lines. I had to manually play that in, or either do that or like fiddle with the grid settings a lot, and that would have been a lot of work. So I just played it and then copied it, so you get that motif when the yellow comes in, right? And I kind of thought that could be maybe like a somewhat of a theme to represent the yellow team kicking our butts. And leading into the next section, I made these risers. Really get the Hans Zimmer feel going. So this is what the serum patch looks like for that. And that really makes it feel like, I don't know, cinematic or something. So all together, this section, I'll just play the second half. It sounds like this. Oh yeah, I guess I did drums too, but like, don't worry about that. I just kind of spread them in there to add a little bit of rhythm. This next section is where yellow started to attack us in the game, so I wanted this to feel really high energy. In order to support that, I actually started with the percussion section here instead of the chords like I usually do. I kind of took a little bit of inspiration from the scene in Black Panther where Chadwick Boseman and the other dude are like fighting each other in a ring with all their guards like pointing spears at them. So I went ahead and did all the drums here first. So we got a taiko, just good old orchestral taiko drum, big drum. I layered 2 different patches of that to get this. Then I added another taiko, a smaller one, to get a little more rhythm going. And with the snare and a bunch of other elements, the percussion section starts to sound a little more energetic, like this. And you'll notice I like to use the cymbals whenever there's an explosion. So like here, for example. And that makes the music feel like it's a little more immersed with the actual situation. So with those, I also added this viola, bringing back this kind of offbeat rhythm, and that sounds like this. And I have that fading in order to give a little more movement to the track. Now, the other main element outside of the drums is the bass swells. So I have the bass going with a cello and a synthesizer as well. Yeah, this guy here. In order to get this kind of swelling sound. And that kind of changes with the rest of the track. Even with all the rest of that, I wanted to get a little more of the hybrid orchestral Hans Zimmer feel, so I went ahead and made this bass plug in Serum. That sounds like this. I'm automating the filter cutoff to get that kind of plucky sound. And then I also reused the bend patches that I had earlier, and with the bass it sounds like this. Then all together with the strings and the drums and the bass and everything, you get this kind of deal. I think this probably has to be one of my favorite sections because working on the drums was just an absolute joy, and it's not an approach I take very often when I compose. Now, at this point in the Bedwars game, it's really looking like yellow is about to win because they are mechanically superior to my team in every way. Like, they're comboing us, they're god bridging at the speed of light, right? But then at this point in the game, something pretty much magical happens that really changes the course of the game, and that's this. If you look in the bottom left here, you can see that the yellow bed gets destroyed by my teammate, who absolutely carried me this game. But all of a sudden, it looks like this team that we thought we weren't going to be able to beat is actually going to be beaten because my team still has its bed and the yellow team does not. And to reflect this, I decided this next section needed to be a complete tonal shift from the previous section, right? So instead of being intense and really percussion heavy with these kind of dissonant, like swelling bass lines, I decided to go for a much more harmonious approach. And I went ahead and wrote this chord progression here. I start off in E minor, then I go to F minor, and then F sharp major, before coming to an A flat sus4 chord. So that sounds like this. And that sounds a lot more hopeful because this second chord here, this F minor, implies E flat Dorian as opposed to just E flat minor, which basically means it's a slightly happier scale. Sounds pretty nice. And I also have this ascending movement between all 4 of the chords. And then the A flat sus4 always, like sus4 chords always sound super awesome and triumphant, and I don't know why there's a random note there that's bothering me. Anyway, these sus4 chords always sound like really awesome and triumphant to me, and you get this. And then I continue that progression for the rest of this section, just in kind of a march style with evenly spaced chords. And I have this this F on top as like a top note to get more of that marching rhythm going, and also because reaching for that high note sounds like epic and heroic. Then here I move the high note up some. That really gives a sense of building momentum and of something grand about to happen. So with that, I copied those chords over to a synth patch because hybrid, orchestral. I thought it sounded kind of nice. I kept it. I have the strings here. These are mostly just emphasizing the harmony and the rhythm. I have the strings doing this triplet rhythm, which feels very driving. Basically just following the chords, right? Same with the cello. Well, no triplets, but it's following the chords, right? Cello and the bass, and tuba and the trombone. All that's just following the same chord progression. I have some of it come in at the end so that you can get the instruments like building on one another really nicely. Then down here I have the percussion. I'm not going to spend too long on it. I already dove into it pretty deep. So you can see I increase the frequency of the crash cymbals, I get rid of the small taiko because it ends up cluttering the mix later, and I introduce more drums to make it sound like it's kind of hyping up. Now the other main thing I want to go over is the brass and the flute, the melody and counter melody I have going on here. So you have, the first melody I wrote was this guy here. So bringing in it's not a French horn despite the name of the MIDI, it is a trumpet. And that trumpet sounds really, again, heroic. I decided I wanted a little bit of a counter melody to go with that to make it sound a little bigger. So I put in another trumpet part to complement it. And I have the trumpets, that top trumpet holding an A flat and the bottom trumpet holding an E flat. And that interval is, that perfect fourth sounds really powerful. And it also follows the 1 and 5 of the A flat chord that I have going. And I went ahead and added a flute on top of them just to give it a little more texture. And that doubles this counter melody I wrote. Then with everything going at once, the section sounds like this. For this last section, it's finally starting to look like we can win the game. The yellow's bed is gone, one of them's already dead, and now we just need to close it out. The game's not over yet. And in order to kind of show that, I wanted to make this section pretty big and grand and driving, but not like too heroic, because we haven't won quite yet. I wanted to gradually get there. Right. And the first thing I did was the piano chords, as usual. Right. So on the right hand, we got this, an E flat minor chord into an F sharp major, an F minor, down to an E sus2. And I actually really like the E sus2 here because it doesn't sound too sad. Right. So this is what the progression sounds like. I really like that tension in the suspended second because it has some drive to it and it doesn't sound like too sad as if I did E minor like this, right? Now that sounds sad, but this sounds urgent. I continue that progression until here, where we finally have one of the guys cornered, right? So we finally have the last guy cornered at our base. So I decided to make the last chord major instead of a sus to make it a little happy, so you get this. Then right here, I'm running to his island, about to kill him. I changed the last chord again from major to minor because right as I'm about to get him and win the game, knocks me off. And then for the finale, I just go ahead and resolve from a sus4 to the major chord to release all that tension because we just won the game. And now I'm going to go ahead and unmute the bass part. So I also wrote this really nice driving bass rhythm to go with it. It's just arpeggios that follow the chords, but I really like how it sounds. So this is what the bass notes sound like. Something about that just makes me think of like a Western movie where like a train's about to head off a bridge or something and the good guy's gotta stop it before it goes off. It feels very Ennio Morricone to me. Anyway, probably the first thing I did was immediately double that rhythm in the bass, or in the cello. Because I think that sounds really awesome. And then I have these violin stabs for a little more momentum, right? If it wants to play them properly. There we go. Then what's the percussion looking like here? What do I do for the percussion? Yeah, percussion's pretty basic. I'm just following, just have the taiko drums going with the snare and tambourine and a castanet. Yeah, it's pretty uniform rhythm. It's kind of following the piano chords a little bit. But the real star of the show comes in the form of the melody. So I have this flute part and both of the violin parts. And the viola as well, playing this melody to start us off. I pass it off to the trumpets because I want the trumpets to come in and make it feel more heroic, so you get this. And as we're fighting this last guy, I make the trumpets come in full force with the flutes doubling it and the viola doubling it as well. So you get this to finish out the song. Hold on, can we just talk about how hard I combo this guy? Like, he's got an iron sword, I've got a wooden sword, we both have the same armor, and he's gapped. Look at how close I come to killing him. Like, look at that. Man's on 3 health. Like, 2 more hits. Oh, god dang it. Now that we're through the last section, I'm going to go ahead and play the finished song. Enjoy.